So 3 friends and I decided to camp out in a 30-acre sanctuary near my neighborhood. The area is bordered by railroad tracks, a road on one side and a smaller road on the other. It features forests, trails, large sand dunes, and a deep lake where the bottom is not visible. Being in Florida, we had to deal with mosquitoes at night and spider webs on the paths. Those snakes left us alone. When I say 3 friends, I mean 2 friends, and my friend's uncle. So that's Cody, Randy, and Leo. Cody is skilled with nature and a survivalist. Randy is my best friend and can get freaked out as easily as me. And then there's Leo, the fun uncle with a mischievous grin. He's awesome. We planned to camp for 3 nights, bringing a large tent and 2 coolers filled with supplies. It was a lovely autumn day, not as hot as usual for Florida, with clear skies. We hid our truck at the trail entrance due to no trespassing signs, but it seemed more like a dumping warning since people were seen there occasionally. Noticing the lack of footprints, Leo casually drew a crude picture in the sand. As we walked, Cody explained that the area was once home to the A's tribe, known for building mounds and thatched huts. Leo asked if we'd heard of a banshee, which made Randy laugh and me facepalm. Leo chuckled, saying he'd save that story for the night. We carried our gear past retention ponds, an open area near the railroad crossing, and a drainage ditch. The trail extended through scrublands and thick, ancient-looking trees. The place was cool, but I was unsure how I'd feel staying overnight. We moved past the big trees to a shaded area, with pine needles forming small hills, then reached the sand dunes surrounded by the Floridian forest. Near the dune's edge was a lake we nicknamed Willow Lake, with an old downed telephone line along the bank. We decided to set up camp on the dunes, which led to secluded trails. We found a perfect spot, a large sandy area with trees on the left and woods on the right, except for a small, barely used path. This was where we would set up shop. Within the hour, we had the huge tent set up, and Cody and Randy went off to collect firewood. In Florida, it's hard to find good firewood, so we used palm fronds to start the fire and actual wood to keep it burning. Thick smoke is good for keeping mosquitoes away. Left at the campsite with Uncle Leo, he opened a bottle of gin. I had never had alcohol before and was just 18, so I knew he'd try to get me to drink. Sure enough, he handed me a drink. I refused, but my curiosity was piqued. Randy would jump at the chance to drink, and I knew Cody would side with me. I told Leo to wait until the others returned, so I'd have someone to agree with. That's when we heard it for the first time, a wail from the base of the dunes. It was so close that it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Leo laughed and called out, "Will you silly nannies stop playing in the sand?" Just then, Randy stepped out of the woods with firewood and asked what all of the noise was. Leo and I asked him where Cody was, and he pointed over his shoulder, saying Cody was still carrying palm fronds. "You mean you weren't the one who just made that wailing sound?" Leo asked, folding his arms. "Leo, I'm serious. You'd know if I was messing with you." I turned to Uncle Leo, who looked puzzled, and asked what he thought it was. He joked that it must be a Tyrannosaurus in heat. I couldn't help but laugh. Leo was our comic relief, but he looked concerned. He mentioned he brought the machete for wood cutting and told me it was in the back of the tent if I needed it. The next day, we woke up and went about our morning routine. As I walked down a reclusive hill, I noticed something odd in the dunes. Deep impressions that looked like something on all fours had bolted up or down the hill. They were so perfect it seemed unreal. Feeling paranoid, I kept my eyes glued to the trails, planning to bring Cody or everyone along if we explored further. I sat on a downed telephone pole by the lake to wash my face, and noticed Leo's bottle of gin, half filled, dropped in the sand. I figured Leo had drunkenly left it there the previous night, or early in the morning. Back at camp, I asked Leo about the bottle. He seemed confused and denied moving it, suspecting I was messing with him. Despite my suspicion, I gave him the gin and sat down. We spent the rest of the morning lazily, eating canned food and deciding which trails to explore. We chose a path around Willow Lake, leaving Leo behind to watch our camp. The trail had a retention ditch with tilapia swimming and a 12-foot drop if someone tripped. By 2 p.m., we'd walked about 3 miles. The place was supposed to be 30 acres, but the rarely curving trail made it feel much larger. The trail split into 3 paths, and we chose the middle one, covered in pine needles for easier walking. Suddenly, we heard the same wail from the previous day. I teared up, scared, and convinced it wasn't Leo messing with us. Cody, looking worried but calm, took out his 6-inch knife, and Randy told me to get low. We spoke softly, almost surreal. Cody cautiously moved ahead, making little noise on the pine needles. Randy and I covered our backs and noticed something strange off the path. An unopened can of mountain bush, far from our camp, and still cold with condensation. I told Randy I was really scared, and he nudged me towards Cody. We decided to head back and tell Leo. As we turned to leave, something caught our peripheral vision. A blur of gray and white ran across the path. I distinctly remember seeing 3 bony fingers on each hand passing through the bush, leaving almost no trace behind. I've never seen Cody hop to his feet and sprint as quickly as he did, and we all followed suit. We forgot about the can and ran back to the lake as fast as we could, struggling up the sand dunes and shouting for Leo. Leo wasn't there. Are you kidding me? I thought. We shouted for several minutes, searching all around. Cody checked the cooler and counted our stuff, while Randy paced, trying to reach Leo on his phone. What are you sissies screaming about? Leo finally answered. He had walked back to the truck to go to the 7-Eleven down the road, but was on his way back. He mocked us for wanting to bail on our only time together over break. We decided to meet him at the front and tell him what happened, not wanting to stay at the camp alone. We walked past the 2 large trees and down the long trail, until we saw Leo coming up with a bag of chips and some water. He found our expressions hilarious, but asked what was going on. When we told him, he was almost in disbelief. He asked if we took his machete, and I said no. He told us we should know where it was if we seriously saw something. The rest of the day, we stayed near the tent, not going anywhere alone. We eventually went down to the lake, and Randy and I started goofing around, wrestling and causing a huge dust cloud on the dunes. Leo loved it as I desperately tried to defeat Randy despite not being as built as he was. Leo, seeing another opportunity to mess with Cody, did the banshee cry again. This time the same wail from before answered from a distance. We all said, "What the heck?" at nearly the same instant. Leo stood up, scanning the perimeter and checking everything. "See, Rob, this is why you need to get your concealed weapons permit," he said, helping us up. When I asked why, he replied, "You really think I'm allowed to carry a gun?" We weren't very talkative the rest of the night. We sat around the campfire, paranoid, trying to roast marshmallows and play music from our phones. But it was hard to shake the feeling we were being watched. Leo kept his machete by his legs, and Cody carved the end of a long stick into a spear. We were truly spooked. There was something out there, and we were alone. "Look, guys, if you really want to get out of here, we can. I'll drive us back to Rob's place." We were all ready to leave, so there were no objections. Some camping trip this turned out to be. Leo stood up, lit a cigarette, and muttered profanities. He turned to us with a half grin, half frown. "You guys are gonna hate me. I think I dropped my car keys." We all gawked, asking if he was serious or messing with us. Known for his pranks, we weren't sure, but he was serious. He searched his pockets and checked all over camp, using his phone as a light. We were stuck. Unless we wanted to walk the whole way back to my house, there was no way out. Exhausted and hearts pounding, we decided to hold out until daylight, cutting our trip short. Instead of 3 days, we'd only stay 2. Huddled in the middle of the tent like frightened animals, the primal fear of being exposed kept us alert. Leo slept next to his machete, shoulder pressed against it. Cody and I couldn't sleep, and Randy drank some of Leo's gin to try to knock himself out. Cody, petrified, told me not to close my eyes. His paranoia made it harder for me to stay calm, and we kept ourselves awake for as long as possible. We heard mosquitoes splashing near the lake and the eerie horn of a passing train. After about 3 hours, we started to settle in. I was about to bury myself in my sleeping bag when I heard sand being thrown around. The noise grew closer, closer to our level. I didn't dare sit up but started to tear up. The thing was bolting up the hill into our campsite, just like it had probably done the night before. I held my breath as its heavy exhalation passed by my side of the tent. The footfalls weren't powerful. It seemed like it was sneaking. Things slowed down now that it was on even terrain. I turned slowly and saw Cody's wide eyes staring at me. He was terrified, and I wasn't about to accuse him of anything. This was horrifying. The monster could end us with those long bony fingers. While it sulked around, rummaging through our cooler, I nodded towards Leo's machete. Cody tried to take it, but Leo was too heavy. We had to wake everyone up. I suggested prodding Leo with a stick. He groaned, but we covered his mouth. Before he could object, we heard the cooler spill. The thing outside grunted, panicked for a moment, then subsided, lapping up water like a big dog. Leo mouthed to us to wake up Randy and sit up slowly. We all remained silent. I couldn't stop shaking. The thing started digging in the sand, sending it pelting against the tent. We pushed on Randy's shoulder. He muttered, "What?" Leo sat up, machete ready. The thing outside stopped digging. We whispered for Randy to sit up slowly, which he did uneasily. The thing cast a shadow over our tent, standing taller than Leo. It was like a grizzly bear, at least 10 feet away, against the heavy forest. Leo, on his knees inside the tent, was barely half its height. His tattooed hands shook as he raised the machete. The monster moved toward the tent, running its delicate fingers across the fabric. Its breathing pushed the tent in and out. The shadow shifted as its hands traced the zipper line. I held Randy's hand out of instinct, my heart pounding so hard I felt it in every part of my body. Even Cody, sitting by himself, was losing it in the calmest way possible. We all knew we had to stay calm, or we'd be dead. The fingers found the zipper. It fiddled, trying to understand, pulling out on the tent and moving us a few inches. Then it started unzipping. It was halfway unzipped when Leo struck. He lunged, swiping across its arm, and the monster let out a blood-curdling shriek. We all screamed as Leo grappled with it, rolling around in the sand, knocking over the bonfire, dust everywhere. We didn't know what to do. We were paralyzed, watching my best friend's uncle struggle with a skeletal humanoid monster with glowing yellow eyes and a hellish snarl. Cody grabbed Randy and me, ushering us down the hill. Randy didn't want to leave Leo, but Cody insisted we dig in. I reminded him that the thing was 6 feet tall and fast. We were in the dunes, in the dark, with nothing to stop it from tearing us apart. Leo and the creature tumbled down the hill. Leo punched it, the machete now in its gut. The creature clawed at his shoulder, dragging like a dissection tool. Leo's neck was badly cut. With Leo bleeding, we knew we had to act. He kicked the thing off and stood, blood dripping. The creature lay there, catching its breath. We ran, abandoning everything at camp. The sand made it hard to sprint, terrifying us more. The thing could grab us at any moment. Cody, remembering his Mohawk heritage, suggested running a certain way to avoid sinking in the dunes. At the bottom, it wailed and charged. Adrenaline-fueled, I ran faster than ever. I passed the trees, the lake, and reached the truck, chest exploding in pain. My asthma flared up and I struggled to breathe, no inhaler with me. I found Leo's keys by the tires and grabbed them. I couldn't do anything, heart pounding, lungs in agony. I realized I had left everyone behind. Randy and Cody arrived, dragging Leo and put him in the back seat. I gave them the keys and without checking if I was okay, they got in. Randy drove and the headlights revealed the creature, eyes reflecting yellow. Randy floored it, running the thing over with a thump. We backed out and sped off to the nearest hospital. Leo was in ICU for days, but he survived. Our families thought we were on drugs and wouldn't let us see each other or Leo for months until a hiker was killed in the same area. The city panicked, and the nature park and surrounding acres were sealed off, entering punishable by fine. Months later, I asked Leo what happened. He told me the breaking glass was his gin bottle. His last sip smashed against the creature's face, cutting it badly. I've never set foot in the forest since.